Max Verstappen was caught testing a secret rear wing at Silverstone, a design so unusual, engineers immediately started asking if it even fits within the new 2026 rules. And here's what makes this even bigger. This wasn't a brand new idea. It was Ferrari's most radical invention, copied, modified, and already running on a Red Bull in less than 2 months. But Verstappen didn't just test it. He tested a version that fixes the biggest weakness Ferrari couldn't solve. Which means this isn't just a leak. This could be the moment Red Bull turned Ferrari's greatest innovation into their own championship weapon. At first, almost no one understood what Verstappen was actually testing. From the outside, it looked like just another aero experiment. Something subtle. Something easy to ignore. But inside the paddock, it raised immediate questions. Because this wasn't just a new part. It was a completely different way of thinking about speed. Most rear wings in Formula One behave in a predictable way. They open slightly on the straights, reduce air resistance, then close again before the corner. It's controlled. It's safe. It's been that way for years. Ferrari broke that pattern. Their Macarena wing doesn't just open, it rotates almost completely. Imagine holding your hand out of a moving car, then turning it so the wind suddenly slips past instead of pushing against it. That's the kind of transformation we're talking about. And the result is massive. Up to 10 km/h more speed on long straights. That kind of gain doesn't just help a car. It changes how races are fought. Overtakes become easier. Defending becomes harder. Strategy shifts completely. But here's where the problem begins. Because that speed comes with a cost. The moment the driver lifts off the throttle, everything has to reverse. The wing has to come back. Fast. Perfectly. At extreme speed. And Ferrari didn't just change the wing, they changed how it moves. They removed the traditional hydraulic system and replaced it with an electrical one. More precise, more advanced, lighter. On paper, it sounds perfect. But on track, something didn't feel right. Because during that transition, there's a brief moment where the wing stands almost vertical against the air. And that creates maximum resistance. Right before braking. Right before turning. Think of it like sprinting, and suddenly hitting a wall of wind just as you try to stop. The balance shifts. The car feels unstable. And for the driver, that tiny moment changes everything. Braking becomes unpredictable. Corner entry becomes more difficult. Confidence drops. And in Formula One, confidence is everything. Because the moment a driver hesitates, even slightly, the lap is already compromised. That's the hidden flaw inside Ferrari's revolutionary idea. Not the speed. Not the concept. But the way it behaves under pressure. And while most people were focused on how powerful it looked, Verstappen and Red Bull were focused on that exact weakness. Watching it. Studying it. Understanding it before anyone else could react. And while Ferrari was still trying to control that instability, Red Bull was already building the solution. Not publicly. Not loudly. Just quietly, step by step, behind closed doors. Because this is where Red Bull is different. They don't rush to match an idea. They break it down first. They look for the weakness. And then, they rebuild it in a way that removes the risk. So when Verstappen rolled out at Silverstone, it wasn't a test of curiosity. It was a test of intent. Because hidden in what looked like a normal run, there it was. A rear wing that behaved differently. Not as extreme. Not as aggressive. But unmistakably inspired by Ferrari's concept. And this is where everything shifts. Because Red Bull didn't copy the idea completely. They stopped just short of it. They kept a central support in the wing. That one detail might seem small, but it changes everything. Think of it like trying to control a spinning object. If it's completely free, it can move faster, but it's harder to predict. Add a guide, and suddenly it becomes stable. More controlled. More reliable. That's exactly what Red Bull did. While Ferrari removed that central structure to chase maximum performance, Red Bull kept it to control the movement. And there's another key difference. They didn't rotate the wing as much. Ferrari pushes the concept to the limit, almost flipping the wing completely. Red Bull reduces that rotation. Not as extreme, but far more manageable. And that leads to the most important advantage of all. The wing returns faster. More consistently. Which means the car stays stable exactly when the driver needs it most. Right before braking. Right before turning. That moment, where Ferrari struggled, is exactly where Red Bull focused. But here's where this becomes even more serious. This isn't just about performance anymore. This is about the rules. Because under the new 2026 regulations, moving aerodynamic parts are under tighter control than ever. Not just what they do, but how they behave, how quickly they move, how predictable they are. And this is where Red Bull's version becomes extremely interesting. Because by limiting the movement, by guiding it with that central structure, they might be operating right on the edge of what's allowed. Not clearly illegal. Not fully safe either. Right in that gray zone. And in Formula 1, that's where the biggest advantages are found. But Verstappen wasn't just testing a wing. He was testing a complete system. A car built around that idea. New aerodynamic balance. Refined airflow. Everything working together. Because in this sport, one part alone doesn't win. The connection between all parts does. And Red Bull is already building that connection. Which means this isn't just a response to Ferrari. It's an evolution of the idea itself. And now, the balance of power starts to shift. Because Ferrari created the concept. But Red Bull might be the team that figured out how to use it under real pressure. And that leads to the question no one can answer yet. Which version actually survives when everything is on the line? And this is where the pressure stops being technical and becomes something much bigger. Because now, it's not just about which design is faster. It's about who handles the pressure better when everything is exposed. Ferrari knows exactly what's at stake. They created this idea. They took the risk. They pushed the limits further than anyone else. But now, they're no longer alone. Because the moment Verstappen tested that version at Silverstone, everything changed from innovation to confrontation. And confrontation in Formula 1 is ruthless. Because once two teams have similar concepts, the difference comes down to execution. Not theory. Not potential. Execution. Lap after lap. Corner after corner. Under pressure. And Ferrari still carries one big question. Can they fully trust their system? Because even with all the improvements, even with the evolution they've been working on, that original weakness still exists until proven otherwise. That moment of instability. That fraction of a second where everything has to be perfect. Now compare that to Red Bull's situation. They're not chasing perfection. They're chasing consistency. Their version is designed to behave the same way, every single time. Less extreme, but more predictable. And that difference might decide everything. Because drivers don't just need speed. They need confidence. Imagine going into a high-speed corner, knowing your car will react exactly the same way as the previous lap. You push harder. Brake later. Commit fully. Now imagine the opposite. Even a tiny doubt changes your entire approach. You hesitate. You lose time. And in Formula 1, hesitation is defeat. But here's where the story gets even bigger. This isn't just Ferrari versus Red Bull anymore. Because every team is watching. Closely. Engineers analyzing data. Studying movements. Trying to understand not just what works, but why it works. Because if this concept proves successful, it won't stay exclusive. It spreads. Fast. McLaren is already looking for more straight-line speed. Mercedes has the capability to replicate almost anything once they decide it's worth it. Even midfield teams will follow. And when that happens, this stops being an advantage. It becomes the standard. And that creates a completely new kind of pressure. Because Ferrari doesn't just have to beat Red Bull, they have to stay ahead of everyone at the same time. And Red Bull? They're already one step into that future. Because they didn't just react. They adapted instantly. In less than 2 months, they went from observing to testing a working version on track. That speed of development changes everything. Because now the question isn't how good the idea is. It's how fast it can evolve. And that leads to the moment where all of this collides. Miami. Because that's where the pressure becomes real. That's where the systems are pushed to the limit. That's where consistency is tested over an entire race. And that's where we finally see, not who had the best idea, but who built the better weapon. Because in the end, Formula 1 doesn't reward innovation alone. It rewards the team that understands how to use it, when everything is on the line. And now, everything comes down to the moment where nothing can be hidden anymore. Miami. Because this is where ideas stop being ideas and start facing reality. Up until now, everything has been controlled. Filming days. Limited laps. Perfect conditions. No pressure. But Miami is different. Heat. Grip changing every lap. Dirty air from other cars. And most importantly, pressure that doesn't go away. Lap after lap. Corner after corner. This is where systems break or prove they belong. Ferrari arrives with the most aggressive version of the concept. Full rotation. Maximum speed potential. And now, a crucial evolution designed to fix their biggest flaw. That counterweight system, the one quietly tested, could completely change how the wing behaves in the most critical moments. If it works, the wing won't hesitate. It won't hang in that unstable position. It will return faster, smoother, more controlled. which means Ferrari keeps the full performance, without the risk. And if that happens, they don't just stay competitive. They take control again. But here's the problem. They don't know for sure. Because testing is one thing. Trusting it in a race is something else entirely. One mistake, one delayed reaction, one moment of instability, and everything is lost. So Ferrari faces a decision that could define their season. Go all in and unleash the full potential, or hold back and risk being outplayed by a smarter, more controlled version. Meanwhile, Red Bull arrives with a completely different mindset. They don't need to prove the concept. Ferrari already proved it works. What Red Bull needs to prove is consistency. Their version is built to behave the same way every single lap. Less extreme, but more predictable, more stable. And in a race like Miami, that stability becomes a weapon. Because over one lap, speed can impress. But over an entire race, consistency wins. Now here's where everything connects. Multiple teams are bringing major upgrades to Miami at the same time. Different ideas, different approaches, all colliding in one place. And right in the center of that collision is this concept. This wing. This battle between two interpretations of the same innovation. Because if the system works, if both versions survive the race, then this doesn't stay between Ferrari and Red Bull. It spreads, fast, across the entire grid. And once that happens, the advantage disappears. So this race isn't just about who wins on Sunday. It's about who controls the future direction of Formula One. Because if Ferrari's version dominates, everyone will chase the extreme. If Red Bull's version proves stronger, everyone will choose control over risk. And if both struggle, then this entire concept, the one that looked revolutionary, could disappear as quickly as it arrived. That's what makes this moment so important. Not just performance, not just innovation, but understanding the limit. Because in Formula One, the line between genius and failure is incredibly thin. And right now, both teams are walking that line. So when the lights go out in Miami, there's only one thing left to discover. Not who copied who, not who arrived first, but who truly understood the idea and turned it into something that actually survives when everything is on the line.